at the last minute like a bat, out of where, the HE double hockey stick. But how is everybody out there in social media land today? It is Monday, November the 1st, and as you can see, I'm still out of breath. I'm up there in age, so I'm out of breath. But today is Monday, November the 1st, and we are 60 days from the new year. 60 days from the new year. And because we are 60 days from the new year, it's time for us to think about what we're going to do next year. What is important to us as a people coming within the coming year. And so today, forgive me for being a little hesitant in my speech right now. I'm trying to get my social media stuff together over here on my phone. But today I'm gonna talk a little bit about some things that a lot of us in our community we probably don't pay much attention to, but it affects us in such a great way. And I think that because we don't pay a lot of attention to this particular circumstance, we find ourselves in it over and over and over again. And what I want to talk about is redlining. Now, a lot of people may not know that term, redlining, and some people may, but redlining is a real serious situation in this country, in America. And I'm going to go into my laptop here, and I'm going to give you the proper definition of what redlining is. But in layman's terms, it means keeping people living from certain areas, keeping people from living in certain areas. So we know that after slavery, our people were greatly affected when it came to the housing situation in this country because they didn't have houses. They didn't have houses. Not to say they didn't all have houses, because many of our people were not enslaved. But that's a story for another day. But for the majority of the people that were, when they came out of that situation, they didn't have homes to go to. They didn't have anywhere to go. They were property one day, and then the next day they weren't. And minus the fact of the people that were enslaved that didn't know that they were free to Juneteenth, a lot of the people that were enslaved, that were let out of slavery, once their laws were changed, they had nowhere to go. And because they had nowhere to go, they found themselves in a situation where a lot of them went to jail for vagrancy and things like that. A lot of different laws were created from slavery ending. New laws were created to re-enslave black people from the beginning. But I'm not going to go into those black codes. I will talk about that another time. What I wanted to speak about was the living situation of our people after their time, because they did not have homes. They didn't own anything. They were a property. When they were freed, they didn't have anywhere to go. Majority of the slaves, they found themselves back in servitude some type of way, some kind of way, in order to survive. And then when our people were able to move into places and rebuild places for themselves, like the Black Wall Street, and a lot of people may not know, but Central Park was an area in New York that was mostly African American. I think it was called Seneca Village, if I'm not mistaken. And then that was taken over for them to build the park, right? Imagine how important that was. That park was important, more important than African American people, black people in this country having somewhere to live. And so redlining still occurs today in our country. And African Americans are still at the end of the financial chain in America after all of these years. You would have thought that by us being probably the second largest population in America next to Europeans, that we would have a greater part of the wealth in this country, but we don't. And not only because of our mindset, But because the way the system was set up, the system was not set up for black people to succeed. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, we can't keep on going back to, those old times. And that was a long time ago. But really, even though it was a long time ago, the way that the system was set up hasn't changed. The way that the system was set up is still the same way that the system was set up when the Constitution was created. Because as you know, the Constitution is governs the laws of which we live by in this country. So because a lot of the laws of the Constitution, they may have been amended with the amendments, for the most part, we still have not received the justice that we should have received in this country since then. And redlining is one of the major things that we are still encountering here in this country. It's amazing that when people come into our neighborhoods and they gentrify, right? They change things, and your house may have been worth $30,000, and then somebody comes and they only want to pay you $30,000 for your property. And then after they fix it up, that property is worth $450,000. Now, the people that live in that neighborhood, they can't afford a $450,000 house. Even though the house right next door to them is $450,000, their house is still worth $60,000. So now, because of this situation, their taxes is going to go up. The taxes are going to become expensive. They can't stay in these neighborhoods. They begin to get pushed out. That is another part of redlining, because it's an economic thing. Not only just a black and white thing, it's an economic thing. It's all about economics. Because if you don't have the money, then you're not worthy of living in this area, because you can't afford to live here. Even though your neighbor's house is $50,000 next door, you're not worthy of living in a neighborhood where you already set your roots down and where you have been for maybe a majority of your life. You don't have the option of really wanting to stay and do better in the community or create a better community within itself because of the economics in America. It has a lot to do with redlining. It has a lot to do with redistricting. That was another topic I wanted to touch on today. A lot of us, we go back and forth with the politics. Should we vote? Is voting good for us? Does it matter? Nothing seems to change when we vote. But we don't really pay attention. We go out and vote. People, maybe more of us should. But a lot of us, when we go out and vote, we normally go out and vote from something that we heard about a candidate. Whoever's the big ticket. Whoever, mostly for our community, is whoever the Democrats has put out there. They're the ones that, that's the candidate that normally the African American community will get behind, the Democratic candidate. But isn't it amazing when you look after all these years and all these years that we have supported the Democrat Party, we are still living in the same conditions. We are still living in those same conditions. We still have probably less than 1% of the wealth in this country when we do go out and vote for candidates. So what is it that the candidates are really doing for us when they go out and they beg for our votes? I'm going to say they put candidates out there in front of us that look good, they look nice, they dress good, they a little smart. But at the end of the day, we still find ourselves in the same situation when it comes to so many things in this country: housing, education, jobs, even water. A lot of places in this country, the water is bad. You can't even drink the water out of your sink. And it's mostly in low-income communities. And all of these things have redlining, redistricting. They all have a direct effect on our community the most. Because we don't have a lot and we don't have a lot of money, we can't get up and just move to somewhere else when someone else moves into our neighborhood and say, this is ours now. We don't have a lot of money to move. So because we don't have a lot of the money to move, when we do move, we end up moving probably to a situation that was way worse than the situation that we were in before, because we might have to move into a ghetto that you don't know. And it's hard enough living in the ghetto that you know. But just imagine you have to go out and move into a ghetto that you don't know. And we all know ghettos have cultures. When you go into another neighborhood, you go to another town, you go into another area, the way they work things out may not be the way they work things out in Philly. The way they talk, the way they, however they operate, it's not the same as where you come from. So then you're forced to push yourself and your family in a detrimental situation, because we all know that with poverty comes crime. It's all directly connected. So what do? Do we not vote, or do we change the situation? Do we change our situation? Because this is the thing. You don't have to go out and vote, but you do have the option to change this. You have the option that you can change the system. See, that's the part that I want you to know. You can change it. It all comes with your voting. You have to vote. The thing about it is, but you have to put your own, we have to put our own candidates in office. See, that's the part. We can't just get behind people that someone else bigged up to get us to get their vote. We have to do like other communities in this country, and we have to go out and find our own politicians. We have to put money together, pool our money together, pool our resources together, and bring our own people in. Because it's like we're on the cusp of great change. But if we don't change our mentality, then we are not going to go anywhere. We're going to slide for how much further in poverty are we going to slide down? Let me just answer that. Because we're almost at the lowest of the low. How much further down are we going to go when it's in a time where it's a great time for us to make money? It's a great time for black people to get out of the mindset that they've always been in and afraid of things that can grant them money and success because of the stigmas and the mindsets of our community. We are so afraid to try something new. Whenever someone talks to us about something that we really have no knowledge of, we will knock it and throw it away before we even try it. We won't even try. You know what I'm saying? We'll say, oh, that you didn't study nothing on it, didn't study nothing about it, but we still going to knock it down. You know what I'm saying? When are we going to change our mindset so that we can change our situation? Because until we change our mindsets, our situation is not going to change. And at the end of the day, we only got each other. That's all we got. We're going to have to come to some kind of medium in this country where black people going to stick together and really stick together and mean it. Because if not, we're going to find ourselves so far behind, so much further than we already are, that we're never going to be able to get back. We're never going to be able to get back. And we were on top. And see, that's the part that our people fail. So many of our people fail to realize we are the top of civilization. We were the top of civilization. Our people were the ones who created civilizations. Now, what they call a civilization, I don't know. It don't seem too civilized to me. When people can't find nowhere to live and people don't have anywhere to have nothing to eat and they have to worry about where they're going to get food from, that doesn't seem very civilized. But yet they call this civilization. Doesn't seem very civilized to me when you have to wonder if you work 40, 60 hours a week, if you're still going to be able to pay your bills. Nobody should have to work 40 to 60 hours a week and not be able to maintain their bills. What are we working for? For what? To be homeless? Because there's people that are working every day, long hours, and they still don't have nowhere to live. Can you imagine if you just worked and you still was homeless? We have to change our own situation. We haven't changed it yet. Nobody else is going to change it for us. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what we're waiting for. What are we waiting for? Because even after slavery, our people had more sense to stick together. They had sense enough to stick together to build Black Wall Street, Seneca Village, until it was taken over. But we are so much further ahead when it comes to education and knowledge of self and knowing about our past and how to do things differently. It's about, do we want to do things differently? Because I was watching Roland Martin today, and I don't always agree with everything Roland Martin says, but I like Roland Martin. I like watching his show. And it was a past show. As a matter of fact, it was on YouTube. It was a past show. I think it was aired on Roland Martin Unfiltered on October the 15th, if you want to look it up on YouTube so you can watch it yourself. And they were talking about redlining. And it was amazing to me, some of the statistics, and that's a shame because I should have jotted these statistics down, but it's basically like we're kind of stuck in the same situation. And although now, more than any other time in America, we have people in our African Americans, minorities that are making millions in 6 figures, 7 figures. At the end of the day, we're still in 1%. So just imagine that. If we already got black people in America that's making 6 and 7 figures, and we still in the 1%, how can that be? You know, we are setting ourselves back so far. Our ancestors would be ashamed of us because we have come so far. We had all our ancestors on the front line. Many of them died trying to get us to where we are right now. And we take it for granted. We take everything for granted. There's a legacy behind us, and most of us don't even know it. We don't know our own legacy. We don't know. We don't realize the sacrifices that they made for us to be in the position that we are right now, and we're still nowhere near where we should be. But it's because a lot of it is because of the laws, not all of it. I won't blame all of it because a lot of it is our mindset as well. But if we don't change our mindsets on how we think about the way the laws and the policies are created in this country, we're never going to be able to get ourselves out of the situation, and that's just the way it is. We don't have to like it, but in some kind of way, we are going to have to involve ourselves, whether we want to or not. Because they say the only way to take a system down is to infiltrate it, like they did our people so many decades and thousands of years ago, right? Isn't that what they did? They came in on the inside and they tore things down from the inside. They were invited in and then they took over. And if we don't have a mindset, and I'm not saying we have to go out there and try to take over and start a war, but what I'm saying is, if we don't have that mentality to understand that the only way you're going to free yourself of a system is to learn it, then you're never going to free yourself from that system. You better know the system that you're living in and everything that's going on around you besides you just walking out and casting a vote. Know who you're voting for. Know what that person that you're voting for stands for. Because redistricting, even if you don't vote, if you live in a certain district and politicians come in every 10 years, they redistrict. What that means is every 10 years, if the demographics change, if the people in the area, more people come in this area or less people come in this area, they'll take the census. They'll do the census, and a lot of our people don't participate in the census as either. But let me tell you something about the census, right? I was doing a genealogy research on my own family, and I found a lot of information about my family through the census records. I found out where my great 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 grandmother lived. I found out things about my grandfather that my mother didn't know about her own father and her own family. I found these things out through the census record. I found out their natural origin was West Indian, which I didn't know that. But I found this stuff out through the census records. And a lot of our people don't include themselves in the census records, but it's a good idea to include yourself in the census for many reasons. Many reasons, especially if it comes to if you're going to be using resources from the government. If you're not, you have to include yourself in the census, and they're already trying to, not include us. If you're not included, it's like you don't live here, but you live here. You live here. So if you don't include yourself when they start giving out stuff, you ain't included. And that's just another way to, limit giving us things. Pay attention. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like the things that the government stands for, but you better know what they are. It's important to know and understand, because you can't change your situation if you don't understand the situation that you're in. The school districts suck because of the laws of this country. It has nothing to do with our children not being able to learn. It has to do with the way the demographics is set up for our children to be educated. It's their system. Do you really think that they want to give our children the best education in this country for free, like they give their children? Hell no. Why would they do that? They know what our children would do with a great education. They know. But they also know that we don't fight. We don't fight for things in our community when it comes to school, because most of the time it's because people who are working every day and they're working hard and they just want to get to work and get home, a lot of the things that's going on outside of home and work, they don't realize how important it is to their everyday. They don't realize. But it's affecting you regardless. Whether you realize it or not, you're being affected. And the communities that you live in, we claim a lot of the community. Oh, this is our area. I'm from this area. I'm from that area. But they'll come right in and gentrify and change your whole area. You won't even know where you was at in 10 years. You won't even remember the way your neighborhood looked in 10 years. Because you did not try to do anything to change the condition of that community that you bragged on that you're from. You didn't pay attention to the redistricting of the politicians in that area when new people moved in. When new people move in, they put politicians in that area for their interests. And if you happen to be the last of the few that were left, you're going to get the short end of the stick, because your interest is not, they're not concerned with your interest. They're only concerned with the interest of the people that they're bringing into their neighborhood to make it so-called look better. And it's the truth, because I lived in South Philly for years, and a couple years ago, well, before I moved to West Philly, my car insurance went down. And then my insurance agent was like, oh, yeah, I meant to tell you, your car insurance is going down. I think it went down by about $40. And I'm like, really, in South Philly? But then I had to realize the South Philly of today is not the South Philly of yesterday. So because the demographics of that area of South Philly is changing, and people that this country values more are in these areas, they pay less for everything. They pay less for the interest on their homes, less for the interest on car notes, less for car notes, less for insurance. Because once they change the demographics to what they're accustomed to, the poverty level starts to decrease in that area, because the people who were impoverished are moving out because they cannot afford to live there. They can't afford to pay those taxes in that area. So now they're moving everybody out, and you standing on your last leg. You staying? I'ma stay here in my parents' house. But they know eventually. They know that eventually, if your circumstances of income doesn't change in order for you to afford to live in that area when it comes to taxes, see, they only gonna hold the taxes off for a little while because it's new. It's new. But after a while, your interests will not matter less than what they already matter now, because the politicians that's going to come in their area is going to be based off the people who put them in office, the people from that area. And you are the minority in that area now. These are things that we must pay attention to. It's an election coming up. Did you even know? Because if most of us, if you're a person like me, I don't watch too much television. And if I do watch television, I watch mostly cable channels. And if you watch mostly cable channels, you're less likely to be able to even see advertisements about an election on TV because you're watching cable television, which is national. So they're probably not showing anything about the election that's coming in your area. But we have an election. I think it's tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. There is an election tomorrow. And I think it's judges, and judges are the first thing that black people in the poor community should be out finding or voting for, understanding what these judges, what do they stand for? What do the judge that's going in office stand for? Because when it comes to the judges, they're front line for the people in the poor communities, because people in poor communities get locked up more often. So they're the first people to go in front of a judge. And if you don't have a judge that recognizes your interests or doesn't, or even is empathetic or sympathetic to your interests, then we already know what that's like in this America. We already know, since our people are filling the jails up the most. It's because we're not educated on things that we should be educated about when it comes to elections and judges and redistricting and redlining. Because it was illegal. I think it was before 1968. If I'm not mistaken, 1968 is when the Fair Housing Act was brought into law, where people couldn't discriminate from housing because of your creed, color, blah, 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 even though we know that that really, it might have helped a little bit, but at the end of the day, we're still segregated. We're still segregated in America. We did all of that, and we're still segregated here. We're still, it's different, but it's still the same. It just did it with finesse. You know what I mean? They finessed us. We did the act, and if you can make enough money to live in this area, then your kids can go to a good school. But if you're poor, then you don't really have that much money to go towards your real estate taxes, because 9 times out of 10 you don't own a home, you're renting. So people, I don't know what it is with this country that makes, a renter second class. And the concern of our children probably less than second class. Because in some third world countries, the children's math skills and stuff is better than ours. And we're in America. We shouldn't have third world country reading levels in America. Math. Not in this great country. This is said to be the greatest country in the world. But for who? And how long are we going to allow ourselves to be in the back? Because we keep having the same arguments year after year after year after year. But you need to know that you're being redlined out of a neighborhood. You need to know. Just because you got a lot of money don't mean they're going to let you live there. They might not let you live there because you have a lot of money. And it's a fact. It's not about the money so much in this country. That's why we have to build our own. We have to build our own communities. Because there's plenty of land for sale in America. Plenty of it. They sell towns. I was on the internet and they had a whole town for sale. A town. If we could put our heads together, maybe we can buy some towns and protect ourselves. But we have to change our mentality. We have to understand the system that we live in. We don't have to like it, but we damn sure need to learn about it. We need to teach our children about this system, how it works, how the financial system works in America, how the housing system works in America, what redlining is, and why it affects us. Because it's not because we're not worthy of living in nice areas. It's because they feel as though we're not worthy of living in those areas. So we have to know that we are worthy. We have to understand that. We have to educate our children on that. See, our ancestors knew education was the key. We might not like the system, but this is the system that we live in order for us to survive in, and we must learn this system. So if we're going to learn it, we need to learn it to the top degree, like our ancestors did. Martin Luther King I think he was 16 when he was in Morehouse. He was a genius. They don't even talk about how young he was. Just think. He was 39 years old when he was murdered. He wasn't even 40 yet. We would think, oh, Martin Luther King, when you think about it, sometimes in our feeble minds, we think that he was old, sometimes, but he wasn't. He wasn't even 40. He started out real young in college because he was a genius from the beginning. So he was fighting and he got us far. Trust and believe. A lot of things changed because of Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, people that our children are not taught about in school. Dawn said she just called in too, Kim. The phone not working? I just told them, Dawn, try to call us back. So it's up to us. It's up to us to pay attention to what's going on around us so that we can teach our kids. We got to stop not caring about politics. You ain't got to like it, but you better learn it. You better learn it because you know why? It governs where you live. You don't have to like it, but it governs your neighborhood. You can't get out of it. You can't. If you're in America, you're involved in politics whether you like it or not. You ain't never got the vote. But when they change some shit, they going to change some shit on your block too. So just think about it. Would you rather be in on it or not? Because, see, they thrive on us not getting involved. But if you put your own people in, you can outvote somebody. They can't stop that. Only you can stop it. Only we can stop it. Because we have to change our mindsets. This is where we're at. This is where we are. We are here in America, in this country that's governed by the United States Constitution and the laws here. But because it is a so-called democracy, let's hold them to that. Let's hold them to them, make them change things. Hold them to what they say that they stand for. That's what you have to do. You have to hold them to their laws. You have to learn how to pick them apart and throw it back at them. That's what you have to do. That's what we have to do here. Because when it comes to redlining and redistricting, it keeps us in poverty. It keeps us in impoverished neighborhoods. Not because we're not smart enough to get out. It's the way the system works. They don't tolerate certain stuff in their neighborhood. Why? Because they vote who they want in. They find them and they pay for them. That's how you got to do it. We don't like to give up money for shit, but pocketbook, shoes, we'll go buy some superficial stuff quick.
That's real right.
We will go buy some superficial quick because I like Gucci too. At the end of the day, that's not going to get us nowhere. That's not going to get us out of the situation that we're in. We are in a great time where we can do we can do great things. Go invest in some cryptocurrency. Stop being ignorant to the things that are going on around you. That is unregulated money right there that the government don't have no control over. Get in it while you can. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I bought me a whole bunch of that Shiba Inu. Because guess what? They laughed at Bitcoin. One Bitcoin is $61,000. One. Now imagine if you would have got in it in its early stages when it was less than a penny, because we don't pay stuff no mind. We don't look at the things that's going on around us while other people is getting rich. People, millionaires ain't millionaires because they work hard all day. They millionaires because they invest. They invest in things. And real estate is the number one thing that make you a millionaire in this country. Real estate. But we have to get out of our own way. We're in our own way with that old thinking. This is 2021. We got 60 days to 2022. Why are we still in the 1% of economy, of wealth, when we spend billions of dollars? We spend more money on superficial bullshit than anybody else in this country. But then they be like, black people don't got no money. That's bullcrap. We got money. It's poppy stores on almost every corner. How you got two poppy stores on the same block and they both open? How you got two hair stores on the same block and they both making money? They ain't buying no hair out of there. Their people ain't coming to shop in their stores. We cash cows to them. We cash cows. They take their money that they get from us in our community and they put it in their community. You can't knock them for that. The only people you can knock for that is us. You only can knock us. Because it's going on too long. It's going on too long. We got to change this shit ourselves. Ain't nobody coming to save us. I don't care what book you read. Stop playing with me. We got to save us. We here right now. God gave us the ability. And if we are in the condition that we are in, it's because we are keeping ourselves there. Because we won't get out of the mindset that we in. And if we don't change our living conditions and the way we live in it so we can get our kids out of poverty, then crime ain't going to stop in our neighborhood, because we all know that where is poverty is crime. When people don't think they got nothing to live for, that they don't try to do better because they don't care. When you hear kids talking about the good die young, they believe that. They think it's cool. It ain't. Because there are children and our grandchildren, and if they dying at 10, 15, 20, who going to carry on our legacy? Who's going to carry our legacy on? It has to be us. You know? It has to be us. Yes, people are satisfied with nothing. People are satisfied with nothing. But sometimes people just ain't educated enough to see themselves out of a situation. People ain't educated enough to see themselves out of a situation. But if you're not educated and your children are not educated, you won't be able to find solutions. Because it's so much more outside of us. It's so much more outside of right here what we see. One thing I learned about going to college, although I didn't finish and get my degree, one thing I did learn though, was being in that atmosphere took me to another frame of thinking. It made me think about things that I probably wouldn't have thought about because I was stuck in the same situation that I always was in. And when you're stuck in a situation for so long, you really can't see outside of that situation. You can't really see outside of it because you're stuck in the middle of it. You're stuck in the muck. But when you're able to move out of that situation and move yourself into an atmosphere around people who have different thought processes, you learn. Because everybody in the world don't hate people, black people, like we think they do. But if you're stuck in a situation like being here in America, where the system was founded on white supremacy, then of course you're not going to see another way, because this is all you're used to seeing. But it ain't like this everywhere. I was where was I at? I was out of town this weekend, right? And there was a couple young kids, and they were talking about they were in Germany, and the one guy said, "Oh, I was in Germany for a month," and then the young lady was like, "Yeah, I was just in Germany for a month," and I was like, "Wow, they're getting out, and they're young, they're younger than me, and they just went and hang out in Germany for a month because they're educated, and they got out of the inner city." They got out of wherever they were that keeps most of us stuck. Where they know they can just get up and go to Germany for a month. We don't have to like the system, but we better learn it. Because if you don't learn what's going on around you right now, you won't be able to get out. You won't be able to get out. And it's such a big world. It's such a big world. It's so much more out there. Believe me. I love to travel. I love to get out of here. When I leave Philly, by the time I hit Delaware, I feel good. I'm ready. I ain't even gonna lie. It's like it's a dark cloud over this city. That's how I feel sometimes. Because our mindset, and some of us here don't even want better for one another. We don't want better. We hate. We got it's so many haters here in this city. It's a shame to say, but it is. People will find something to hate somebody for quick before they find something to love somebody for. We won't support one another. If somebody do something, we'll make it seem small. Oh, they got a little of this and they got a little of that. It ain't little to them. It's big. And if we don't get out of that mindset, we never going to change. I know a lot of black people go to Atlanta, but let me tell you about them people down in Atlanta. They ain't no haters down there. You know, if you hear somebody say they coming to Philly, you'll hear Philly people say, "Oh, I don't know what you coming to Philly for. I wouldn't come here." When I was in Atlanta, young girls were like, I told the young girl, I said, "My daughter want to move here." She's like, "Tell her to come down here. There's plenty of money in Atlanta. There's plenty of money in the ATL." She invited my daughter. She don't even know me or my daughter, but she still invited my daughter to the city to come up. Southern hospitality is real down south. It might be a lot of other stuff that go on down there, but Southern hospitality is real down there. They don't be hating like we do here. That's why we so stuck, because we don't want to support one another. Even if you feel like somebody's stuff is small, you don't discourage them. You don't do that. You don't put that energy out there, because first of all, you're going to get that energy back. You get what you put out. So you put out negativity and you make somebody else something that they're doing small, then you probably never have nothing great, because you ain't got the mentality of greatness. It's time for us to do something great. For real. Yes, the love is real down south. Yes, it is, Aunt Lisa. Why? Yes, it is. They different. They different down there. You know what I'm saying? For real. They welcome you with open arms, feed you and everything. But we don't do that here. We got messed up mentality. It's time for us to change it. We come from greatness. We are greatness. It's time for us to show the world that we can be great again. Be great again. We need to go listen to people like Dr. John Henry Clark and people like that. Because they will tell us about our greatness. You will watch him debate someone and shut them down about us, about who we are, and how we got to the position, into the conditions that we are today. It was our hospitality. See, our hospitality has gotten us into the situation that we are today. because our people came from abundance. Our people came from abundance. They came from cities, civilizations that was thriving and had a lot. They didn't have to fight and kill for food. They didn't have to do that. So their mentality was of hospitality. And when they let other communities come in that wasn't from that type of hospitable atmosphere, we let them in. They took over. But how long we going to keep on? How long we going to stay down? How long are we going to stay down? It's the perfect time for us to get up. It's the age of Aquarius. Y'all better recognize. Go out and learn something. It's been a shift. Some people don't pay attention to things like that, but it's been a shift. You better jump on a wave of that shift and find out where you belong in it. Because it's the time for change. This is the time for change. The universe has shifted in your favor. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of the opportunity that the Creator gave us with a shift of the universe. And go read about the age of Aquarius. Read about ages, period. And what they represent. And what it means to you. Because if we don't get on the different brain waves and start learning some other things about, except for what we, regularly learn, everybody else is moving ahead of us again. Because we stuck in that same mindset. We don't open up our minds. We need to open up our minds. Hey, Rod. We need to open up our minds. Forget all the other stuff that you was taught. Start learning something new today. Because if not, I ain't gonna be down here broke with y'all. I'm just letting y'all know. I'm just gonna let you tell you right now. Yes, the shift is happening. And I ain't about to stay down here broke with y'all. So if y'all don't jump on the shift, when I get rich, y'all ain't about to take all my money. I'm letting you know. She want? I'm letting you know. Dawn, you there? Hello? Oh, I hear her a little bit. Hey, my girl, Dawn, gonna come on air. Dawn, you there? Oh, hold up. She coming. Yes, so take advantage of the shift. I said, because you're going to get sued if the car... Yeah, so, we have to take advantage of the opportunities that's in front of us right now. You know what I'm saying? It's a shift. Learn about this shift. Pay attention to the things that's going on around us. It's our time. Our time has returned. Believe that. Dawn, you on? Hello? I'm trying to get Dawn on ear for y'all guys. She called in. Dawn, you on? Hello? I don't think she on. I don't see nobody, no phone number on here. She might have hung up.
I'm here.
Oh, you here? Can you hear me?
I'm here.
Hey, boo. How you doing, Dawn?
Hey, Khadijah. How you doing?
I'm good. I miss you.
I miss you, too. Hey, y'all in the studio. Hey, listeners. How are you guys?
Willie said you ain't pay your phone bill.
Tell him cash at me the money for my phone bill.
You heard that, Willie. She said, get that cash app right, get that phone bill. Stop talking all that smack. What's up with you doing?
I'm at work. I just let me take a few minutes and call in.
That's what's up. I was sitting here talking about, how we have to change our mindsets about, politics and redlining and all the things, and learning about redlining and redistricting and all the things that's going on in this community around us.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yes, like I was saying earlier, there's an election tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard about this election. Now, I know that's not their fault. I should pay more attention to when it's time for an election. But normally, when there's an election, you see a lot of signs and stuff, right?
Right.
You see a lot of signs. You see a lot of people, advertising who's running for what. And I haven't hardly seen nothing. And there's an election tomorrow.
And it's interesting because I didn't know that Krasner was running against Peruto. So I don't know. The only Peruto that I'm familiar with, and this could be the same guy, is he's an attorney.
Yes, that's exactly who that is.
That's
yes.
the same one.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if it's the father,
Charles.
or the son,
I think it's the son.
or whatever. So, of course, we haven't done our homework because we had no idea who was running.
Yeah.
So we must take a more vested interest in our community and to see who's really doing what in our community. And we've said this countless times during election times. Like, we need to know what's going on with policies, what are they doing for our respective communities, are they visible, are they accessible, those kinds of things. Anything outside of just the norm, just the basic services. That's what we need. We need people who are really going to be game changers. I would like to see the younger people take a more vested interest role into politics, like Bernard, our nephew Bernard.
Yes.
Bernard did a podcast, and I shared it last week on my page, him and another young lady, about this particular election and who was running and what were the issues, that kind of thing. So I really do. I think it's important, not just for the younger people, but for us of age as well. We really need to know what's going on. But as you've been talking about, the redistricting, the redlining, all of those things are being moved around, so we really have no idea. We're in the dark. Things are being passed, and we have no idea what's going on until after the fact.
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying, like, because we don't pay, because we have such a, a hate, I ain't gonna say a love hate, a hate thing, politics, feeling about politics in our community. We don't stay engaged when stuff is changing all around us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We don't stay engaged. We don't know what's going on. And then when stuff changes, we always the last to know. And then we mad. We want to protest after it's too late. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We have to stay engaged with the politics that's going on in our community because it affects us every day.
And even the local, like the community leaders, they're not even advertising
No.
that they're having meetings. Where I live, they're doing all of this developing. So you have all of these apartments and you don't have any parking spaces.
Yep.
And now we're doing permanent parking. It's just really unbelievable that just 2 years ago, you could always get a parking spot.
Yeah.
Now there is no parking. So, they're turning this into a mini South Philadelphia, and any warehouse, whatever, they're tearing it down and building apartments. For what?
Yeah.
For what?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Because we don't pay attention to the politics in our community, because they do have the meetings. See, they have the meetings. They just don't advertise the meetings.
Yeah.
If you're not concerned about them enough to call us down City Hall or find out where they having a zoning meeting, because they have zoning meetings at City Hall all the time. But if you're not concerned and you don't find out for yourself about those zoning meetings, then you get yourself pushed right out of where you live.
Yeah.
And
that's the absolute truth.
You get and then we get mad. We say, oh, these people moving into our neighborhood, but they had a meeting. They had a meeting. And because we're not paying attention to the politics that are around us, we didn't know they had a meeting. The meetings was to kick us out.
Yeah.
That's what the meetings, but they ain't going to say that.
Have you noticed that some of the poppy stores are no longer poppy stores down there? Like, I don't even know what the.
Oh yeah, they turned into them little convenience stores.
And the hookahs, and everything is tobacco based.
Yes.
So we know that addiction is a big thing in our communities.
Yes.
So why would you push something or allow this to come into the community? It was one thing to have a little poppy store, just a bodega, just to have what you needed for milk and bread and stuff. But now it's just like, now you have this whole other portion of it, which is all tobacco based, which is a form of another addiction. It doesn't make any sense. But you can't go to somebody else's neighborhood. But then again, the local leaders allowed this to come in.
Yeah.
Who zoned it for that?
Yeah.
Who did that? Who approved it?
See, the thing is with the local leaders, they know that majority of us ain't gonna go out and fight nothing.
Yeah.
So when these people come into these communities and they have their little deals that they're going to do, they're going with these little deals that they're going to do in the neighborhood. It ain't coming from us; it's coming from them. Because I'm sure it's some kind of deal going on. It ain't nothing political going on around here without some deal. Somebody putting some backdoor deal somewhere.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So we don't know about it. And if we want to know about it, it's up to us. I was listening to I cannot remember the person's name, but it was on that Roland Martin broadcast that I was just telling you guys about. And they were saying, like, put your foot on a politician's neck. If somebody is in your community and they're a politician in your community and you don't like what's going on in the schools at your community, you need to be going around there to their office and letting them know. Mm-hmm. You need to be emailing them, calling, because that's what other people do.
Yeah.
That's what other people do. They don't just sit and talk. If they don't like something, they'll write a letter to their politician.
Yes,
they'll say, you ain't going to be in here next year. We getting you out. You're out. If you didn't do X, Y, Z, this is what we want for our kids, X, Y, Z, this. But we don't do that. We don't do none of that. And that's how come.
And you know,
go ahead, Dawn.
You know, on my side street, with the 3 apartment buildings, that was zoned for 2 houses. So the first developer, he's the one that got it zoned for 2 houses. He sold the plot of land to another developer and pushed him in there, and he made them apartments. But they weren't zoned. They had a meeting. The community approved the zone, you know. It was like, okay, 2 houses. Now you put 3 apartments in there. So here we go again. There's no parking.
Right.
So where are the residents going?
Right.
So it's 3 apartments with 3 residents in each building. So that's 9 residents.
And nowhere to park.
And nowhere to park.
Nowhere to park. I was just
nowhere to park.
Down in South Philly on Point Breeze Avenue. It used to be a little kiddie playground that we played there back in the day. Now they trying to make that into an apartment building, a big one. So I seen something where they was, calling for the residents to come out and speak out about this, because it ain't nowhere for people. Just like you said, it's nowhere for people to park. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You got an apartment building, you want to put 50 apartments here. Where are people going to park at? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, thank you so much for calling and Dawn.
Oh, you're welcome.
Pooh G's and Dawn is about to come on.
Tell them I said hey.
Yeah, I don't know if they in the building yet. But they're about to come on soon, Tunnel Bangers. So tune in for Tunnel Bangers. I'd like to thank everybody that tuned in to WillPower UnSurfaced today. Think about what I said. Pay attention to what's going on in your neighborhood. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Dawn.
All righty.
Energy made this one.